Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. This is our series, Friends of Wager Talk, and my good friend here, Vegas Frank, contributor to Vegas Synergy. This one's going to be a kind of fun video, Frank. Normally we're talking sports and we're talking betting, but we're going to talk some Las Vegas stories. And, you know, I get to go out to dinner a lot with you and Chris and our wives and that, and it's always fun because for me, it's like dinner and a show whenever you're in attendance because you've got so many great stories. You've been here. You first got to Vegas in 1964. You've done it all. A lot of people that remember the old Vegas remember highlight. At one point was pretty popular here in Vegas, and you were a professional highlight player. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I turned pro. I practiced here because, you know, I went there one night to watch it with my parents. I was 12 years old, and they took me to a game, and I was so fascinated with it that I went the next day and asked the player's manager, Jesus Belostegui, if I, could practice. And he was like laughing at me. He says, show up this Saturday with a hockey helmet on. I'll have one of the players sell you a cesta for $15, one of their used baskets. And needless to say, I fell in love with the game so much that I practiced 4 to 5 hours a day for 5 years. And
Nice.
then I turned pro in Tijuana. Came back to MGM Reno when they opened in April of '78. Played there until 1980 till they closed. And after the fire here at MGM, I played here. And I actually won the last game played here. It was July 10th, 1983 out of Post 4. But I had a great time. We didn't make much. We made about $30,000 a year, but it was a great time as a kid. And it was the funnest $30,000 you could ever make. I felt like it was stealing because it was. I thought I was still going to have to pay to play, and they were paying me to play. It was a great
Nice
time.
stuff. Well, then after your highlight career, you started dealing poker here in town.
Well, yeah, because then I had a wife and 2 kids and $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
So
Wives and kids eat that up in a hurry.
quick. It wasn't so easy then. And then so my friend Ted Weinstock ran a poker room, and he asked me. Frank, why don't you come over here? I'll teach you how to deal. You can make some money until you make up your mind. Needless to say, I was making $150, $200 a night, and I stayed in gaming.
The poker back then a little different than poker today.
Oh yeah, there was not everything was limit. 4 and 8, 5 and 10. We just played, and nothing like it is now with the no limit and all the kids with the hoodies and all that stuff.
The hoodies and sunglasses and all that.
It was all different then. It was all different.
What I like, some of the stories you've always, told, and, you talked a lot of times, you grew up in a gambling family. I think everybody that's a gambler grew up in a gambling family. And, I've told stories many times, I used to go to the track with my dad. I started going to the racetrack at 10, betting the ponies, and, ended up liking that so much that, a little too big for a jockey, but I'm the right size for an owner. So I got into horse racing and bought some horses. But you've had some great stories you used to tell us about. You want to share a couple of them with us?
Well, see, now my father, I was born in Havana, Cuba, and my father was a baccarat dealer. He was a fine baccarat dealer, one of the best here. So when he brought us out here to Vegas in '64, the thing about my mom and dad is they were so loving and so much fun, but we didn't realize that they were such gamblers until we got older. But like as kids, a lot of the times, and there was 4 of us, there were days that we would come home and there'd be 4 Schwinn Super Sports in the driveway. My sisters and everybody would go, oh my God, we'd walk in and we'd all have brand new bikes and everything. And then the next day there'd be like no power in the house. So we just thought that was common. And then there'd be, and my father was a great chef, so he would make steak and shrimps and everything. And then 3 days later we would sit down and there would be like 2 pieces of bread. And then we'd say, Dad, what is this? He goes, son, that there is an air sandwich. And then my brother would have 1 slice, and my brother would say, what about me? I only have 1. He'd say, that's an open-face air sandwich. So we had things like that. We would go to Disneyland, and then 3 days later, there'd be no water in the house. But we didn't understand. We didn't question nothing. It was just fun, and he was always made it loving until he got older. And he told me about all the money, because as a baccarat dealer back then in the 60s and 70s, it was all cash. Mm-hmm. So he would make between, he would have weeks of 6, 7, 8, 9,000 in the 60s. And yet we lived okay. We had a good time. And then I would tell my dad, aren't we supposed to have more? Why aren't we like much better off than we are? And he said, son, I want you to see a copy of this. He was writing a book, and it was titled how I turned $1 million into 5,000. So I said, Dad, I don't think too much. He said, son, this is a book of what not to do in Vegas. So as a kid, I was raised with a really cool gambling father who took me around everywhere, he introduced me to all top gamblers, all dealers, and that's what I was raised with.
Well, it paid the way for you. You learned at an early age about the ebb and flow of swings and variance, obviously.
Yeah.
With the bikes one day and, the lights not working the next day. But, and sometimes, that's the best lessons, to be honest with you. It's funny, we joke about, the stories now and that, but, taught you money management. Which, for any better, you could be, if you don't have sound money management, it doesn't matter how many winners you're getting, you're going to find a way to screw that up with different people. Any other stories from your dealing days or fun stories that you had? I know you have a blackjack story that our buddy Johnny Detroit loves when you told that story.
Oh, our buddy, a friend of ours named August Pritzlaff. He dealt with us. This guy was a character. So that night, we all made about 130 to 160. He made $40 because I guess he hit every stiff in the joint. So he makes $40, and he says he was pissed. He says, I've had enough. And he goes over to the horseshoe, runs the 40 into $56,000.
Playing blackjack.
Yeah. I mean, he would put it out there. We were so excited. Oh my, $56,000. We thought he had half the cash on the planet. When we were so young. Needless to say. There was one hand, and if you ever remember the movie, The Gambler with James Caan, I have an Augie Pritzlaff hand. We're at the horseshoe, and he's getting cocky. And at the horseshoe back then, they took action. They're not corporate stuff like it is now. So there was a hand, and he had about maybe 8 to 10 people, a couple Japanese behind him watching, and we're watching this Augie because we know he's just a schmuck poker dealer like us, right? He has $7,500 left in front of him in black, and he goes to the dealer. He goes, let me ask you something, dealer. He says, if I bet this $7,500 on the next hand, are you going to shuffle up like this? Are you going to shuffle? And the pit boss was right there, and the pit boss said, just put it in the square, Sonny. So Augie puts it in the square. This is like in slow motion. He puts it in the square like in slow motion. And they deal it to him, and the dealer just goes just like this and flips over the jack of diamonds. And just looks right at him like, F off. How do you like that? And Augie, like this was his moment. This was his James Caan moment. Like when he hit the 18 and caught the 3, he picks up the hand, and he's got the cards behind it. He's got the ace of spades right here. And he's showing it to all the people. I said, come on, Augie. But this was his moment. And he snaps out of it. King of Diamonds. Oh my God! 11,250 tips the dealer. Took us upstairs to eat at the Sky Room there. Yeah. The whole deal was our Vegas moment. Needless to say, after that, I don't think Augie bought a T-shirt, and he went through that and the 56,000. But it was a great time.
It's great stories of the life of a gambler and having money one day and not the other. But you definitely, those were your young days, and you've become quite the successful gambler out here. I know you and Chris and you guys, this is what you do, and it's not all, a lot of people think, when they think about us out here, that our life is sitting in a sports book all day, watching games and betting, going to the strip clubs at night, partying all day, and then starting doing all of it. This is hard work. It's not, it's not the Playboy scene. I know you and Chris, you guys are on the strip, on the weekend, 6 o'clock in the morning, you're down and ready to hit the casinos before they open, get those numbers, grab those soft numbers where they're at, and you guys are running all over town, and it's great to have you on. I'm very thankful that you are a contributor to Vegas Synergy at Wager Talk, and a good friend of Wager Talk. And a lot of times, when I need some information I can't find, you and Chris are my first phone calls, and I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. I was going to tell people, like, right now, because we personally screened a lot of the components of Vegas Synergy, right? The plays that you're going to get from them are from the sharpest of the sharp.
In their specialized field.
Their specialized people. In football, basketball, they have special people in every one of those fields.
Good stuff. I appreciate Vegas Frank coming in. Great stories, and we'll have you and Chris back in here sometime in the future. And guys, check out all of our videos at wagertalk.com. Each and every week, we break the games down for you and have interesting guests for you. Tune in each week at wagertalk.com. Just go to the video section on the website.